everyone, my name is Bethany and welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to announce that I am doing something for the month of June that I am calling Jane Austen June. I know, so original. I've been wanting to do a lot of more Jane Austen themed videos lately, and I thought this would be a really fun month and theme to do for myself. So I'm going to start off with part of my video series that I've been doing calling Guides from an English Major is talking about a guide to Jane Austen. To celebrate the fact that I'm doing Jane Austen June is I'm doing a giveaway of a Jane Austen book. Go figure. This is going to be Northanger Abbey, and if you watch my guide to classics, you'll know that I am a big fan of notes, and there's endnotes. So you have endnotes to refer to when for things and phrases that might be a little bit confusing for this copy of Northanger Abbey. Because this is Jane Austen June, this is going to be a month-long giveaway. So please include a comment down below if you want to enter the giveaway with either a favorite Jane Austen novel or a Jane Austen novel that you want to read, and I will put you into the giveaway. Northanger Abbey, if you didn't know, is more of Jane Austen's silly, wild romp. It is a lovely good time. It's kind of more of her silly novels, and it's really cute and really fun. There's a really cute romance between Catherine and Henry Tilney in this one, and he is a great character as well. And it's a great starter book for someone who hasn't read Jane Austen. So this is the book that I am doing for the giveaway, and you can comment down below and I will reach out to you and comment for whoever wins at the end of the month. And at that point you can DM me either on Twitter or Insta to be able to get your address for the giveaway and send it out. That's the plan. To start off with, I should really show off my shirt. I'm wearing a special shirt today. This shirt is Jane Austen. It is the written, if you can see, that is novel, the Jane Austen novel. I believe it's Pride and Prejudice. Here's Darcy. You can see in the center. Some ladies over here looking circumspect. And then you have, if I can turn it around, that's Pemberley in the back. I can't really get a good angle of it. This shirt's fitting way tighter than it used to. Pandemic weight. Don't judge. Anyway, I thought I would just go with a theme and go full on. So hence my wearing the shirt today. Jane Austen is also a romance favorite because she wrote romances when romances weren't even really a thing. I'm going to go a little bit into Jane Austen's life because how her life kind of plays out is very, very telling in how her books play out. I'm going to go a little bit into that and then also kind of where you can start in the realm of reading her books and what that would look like for you. I'm really going to only focus on her completed full-length novels. There are 6 of them. I am not going to talk about her short stories and or the uncompleted Sanditon. And that is another story for another time. I will get into that in another video. But hopefully this will be helpful for those who want to read some of Jane Austen's novels and having an idea of what you're getting into and having some learning something new from this video. To start off with Jane Austen. So she died very young. She died when she was 41. She was born in 1775 and died in 1817. They believe that she died of Addison's disease, which I guess is something about certain hormones not producing. Jane Austen is the 7th of 8 siblings, so she comes from a really big family. She has 6 brothers and 1 sister, her sister named Cassandra. And her father was a clergyman, and her mother married him. They were pretty much strictly middle class. One of the interesting things about Jane is one of her brothers was adopted by a very wealthy family member. A cousin of theirs did not have any heirs, so one of their sons was adopted to become an heir. And so Jane had a really interesting perspective and a really interesting opinion on this because her family was kind of in the middle of that, and she got to know those relatives really well for a time in her life, which gave her a really interesting perspective of middle class viewing those who can be considered higher class at the time. She did not have a very good relationship with her mother, but she loved her father. He died suddenly, and the mother and Cassandra and Jane had to basically fend for themselves. They had to end up relying on their relatives to be taken care of for the women of the family. The men were all doing their own things. Ended up being beholden to relatives was the particular rich relative that lived in Chawton, and there's a house in Chawton that you can visit of Jane Austen's house, and I have been there. She also lived for a time in Bath. Bath was not a place that she really liked and had a really hard time adjusting to. But she did not live there for very long, and that was more earlier on in her life, as opposed to more of the middle to end of her life was in Chawton. So during her life, only 4 of her novels were actually published, and they were not under her real name. She got them published through the help of her brother, Henry, who she was very close to. That includes Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, and Emma were the ones published during her life. And of course, she weren't under her name. She wasn't known for her works until obviously after her death. Her brother actually went and published Northanger Abbey and Persuasion after her death. Northanger Abbey is her first novel that she completed, and Persuasion was her last novel that she completed, which I think it's really interesting that those two are the ones that came out after her death. And it tells you a lot about how she was as a writer as well. I think a lot of those facts that I've laid out are just really good things to think about when you think about the plots of her particular novels. A lot of her novels include a lot of social commentary. A lot of historians and professors who are really into Jane Austen novels really focus a lot on her social commentary, and of course romance readers focus on the romance. But really they're a combination of both. Jane writes a lot about social commentary, and in regards to the classes, in regards to women's place in society, in regards to women owning property and having rights. I mean, there's so many layers of what she addresses in some of her books, as well as, even though all of her female heroines do end up with a happily ever after, which was pretty revolutionary for the time. She wrote these in the early 19th century, over 200 years ago. Women couldn't own property, didn't have rights. But as you read some of her novels, you realize how that was what was important to her. That's what mattered to her. She wrote what she knew, and that was clearly stated in her books over and over again. One of the things I also love about her books is the bad characters, like the villains, always get their own karma. They always get their comeuppance, which doesn't always happen in real life, but the fact that it happens in a Jane Austen novel is there's something really beautiful about it. As well as these books are timeless. There's something that crosses the generation. Because her social commentary is so good, she uses stereotypes of caricatures of people that we already know. One of the type of caricatures that she usually uses is like the busybody. So you have usually some sort of matron or elderly woman who is the busybody, the gossip, gets into everybody's face, and make sure to keep the social mill going and rumors and gossip going. Even though it's been 200 years, we know that kind of person in modern day. We have those type of characters in modern day and stereotypes in modern day of people like that. So we're able to see that and know that, and even though that she was writing for a different time, you're able to see that in current times, and that's kind of the characters that really work. The villain guy being someone like Wickham, who is only looking for money, and we know those kind of guys, like those types of guys exist, so those caricatures really work and make the story timeless as well as Jane Austen heroines are also timeless. You can easily put yourself into someone like Lizzie, you can easily put yourself into someone like Emma, and there's something timeless, and their voice is so strong, and you can get a sense of putting yourself into the story and enjoying it for what it is and enjoying it for that. I think her social commentary and her romance balances really, really well with each other. And to ignore the social commentary or to ignore the romance is ignoring Jane Austen as a writer as a whole, because they come together in such a beautiful way, and I think that's what makes some of her stuff so good. But also it can make her somewhat of a difficult read. You have to at least know that some of the history. So again, knowing some of her life really helps with reading the novels and understanding where she was coming from and understanding why she wrote what she did and the kind of stories that she wrote. I went over this in my last video about my guide to classics, which is one of the last videos that I did for this series. I will link it up above. I do go into how to read classics, and I would also address that a lot of the points that I make there also applies to Jane Austen. Refer to audiobooks, read them out loud. Has a way to kind of help you get through them if you really want to read them and if you want to get through them. Her style can be difficult to read. It can be challenging to read her works because her books are 200 years old. Language isn't what it was back in the day. Language is constantly changing. So language back then is not how we talk now and not how we converse now. So the language is a lot heavier and a lot harder to get through for a Jane Austen novel if you're not used to reading classics. I would also start with some of the easier works and moving into some of their more dense works. So to start off with, I think some of her easier books to read is going to be Northanger Abbey and Persuasion. Ironically, her first and her last. I think they're lighter, they're not as heavy on the social commentary, they're some of her shorter novels, so they're quicker and easier to get through for that reason. Next, I think middle, you're going to have Sense, Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice. Those are a little bit more dense, a little bit longer, and a little bit more heavier in topic and in commentary. And then at the end, her longest, both of these are her longest novels, heaviest in social commentary, a lot more dense, is going to be Emma and Mansfield Park as harder to read. So don't jump into those first. If you're new to Jane Austen, I would start with some of the easier midline range ones. These are all my perspective, granted. Maybe some other people have different opinions of what is easier or harder to read for a Jane Austen novel, but this is my suggestion, and this was what I would suggest. Of her 6 Jane Austen novels, I would say the books that probably have less of the social commentary, there's social commentary in all her books. There's discussions about class and family ties and how family plays into class and what you do matters and how you work and how much money you receive is all a very big part of Jane Austen novels. I will say, though, that there are some novels that are more heavily social commentary as opposed to others. I would say the books that have less social commentary are going to be books like Northanger Abbey, Sense, Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice. As opposed to those who are more heavier in social commentary, you have books like Emma and Mansfield Park. Persuasion, I feel like, is somewhere in the middle. I'd say Sense, Sensibility might be somewhere in the middle too. I just think it's got a little bit less than Persuasion does, but that's kind of where it lies on the spectrum of that. So if you're looking something that has less social commentary, I would probably recommend Northanger Abbey and Pride and Prejudice to start off. I think I want to end by saying that Jane Austen is great, and I think that there is something really timeless and really beautiful about her writing, as well as her stories. I think that there's something worth honoring in her stories and what they have given to our culture and society as a whole. However, I will say, as much as I love a adaptation, and I've seen several different adaptations of several of these novels, I will say I don't think I need another adaptation. Editing Bethany hopping on. So when I was rewatching this video, I felt like I didn't make my point clear in what I was trying to say. So let me try to explain what I was trying to say again. When Bridgerton came out, there was a lot of discourse about how it was a Regency era piece, and there was a lot of criticism of it that was saying how Bridgerton was fantastical, but not, if you're looking for Austen, it's not for you. And it made me somewhat furious because Bridgerton was based on historical romance novels. Jane Austen wrote for her time. She was a contemporary author. And you can't take a historical romance fiction and compare it to contemporary fiction that is considered historical now. The two are going to be very different. And I love Jane Austen adaptations. I think they're amazing, and I love seeing them, and I love experiencing them. I have watched Pride and Prejudice many, many times. Colin Firth's version is the only version. Don't at me. And then there's also, there's talks now of doing a diverse adaptation. I love that idea. I am all for it. That's the things that I've seen on the internet of those being cast, which is all fine. But at the end of the day, I think there's so much more material out there that should get their own adaptations. Jane Austen is great, but there's a whole historical romance genre that's written in the modern day that's doing the same things that Jane Austen did. And to put it, just because it adds sex doesn't invalidate it. That's why I made that commentary that I did. That's why I feel so strongly about it. And that's why I'm saying not to make more Jane Austen adaptations, but to use other source material for adaptations. And I'll take all the Jane Austen adaptations, but any other adaptations that get made, I'm going to watch those too and have a great time. Yes, I think that illustrates my point a little bit better and a little bit clearer. And now back to my video. And as modern and as great as Jane Austen was, she also was from 200 years ago. I think we can move on into more contemporary times and do more adaptations like Bridgerton and have a great time. I think there's so many adaptations of Jane Austen. I think that there's time to move on because there's so many other material that we could look at and make adaptations of. But I think Jane Austen would love to uplift other female writers. I think that would have been her goal. I hope that you learned something from this guide. I hope this guide was helpful to you if you are interested in Jane Austen and want to read her. I hope this was informative and interesting and something that you can take with you if you decide to start on your Jane Austen journey. Let me know in the comments if there's something new that you learned today about Jane Austen, or tell me something about about Jane Austen that maybe I didn't mention in this video. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw and want to see more bookish things from me or more from this series, please subscribe and hit likes and bells. I would really appreciate it. As well as you can follow me on all my social medias down below. I have linked and you can see all the things. I really appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you again soon. Bye!